When Beth returns from a business trip to Hong Kong, she attributes the illness she feels to jet lag. However, just days later, Beth is dead, and doctors have no idea what killed her.
What are you talking about? What happened to her?
As others start to fall ill and the global pandemic spreads, a medical team tries to contain the virus before it annihilates mankind in Contagion.
Contagion. We've all just seen it. Dennis, what's your diagnosis?
My diagnosis is that Contagion was a fantastic film. I was riveted and absorbed from start to finish, but I fully acknowledge that there are some people who probably aren't going to feel the same way.
I think I might be one of those people, Dennis. I do think that we need to give this movie some credit. It does something that we haven't really seen in a virus contagion movie before, which is an approach that's scientific, that's clinical, that tries to show how it really would be in this particular situation.
That's exactly correct.
The problem is that it does that at the expense of character, of really any sort of emotional backbone that we can connect to the movie and really enjoy as an audience.
I agree with you, and I think one way to look at it is to look at the theme of the film. If you look at the theme of the film through the characters, it's kind of a joke. The film is trying to say, don't eat pork and don't cheat on your husband. The filmmaker is specifically distancing us from the characters, and the theme is more, nature is cruel, nature doesn't care if you're Gwyneth Paltrow, everyone can be a potential victim. And I think that's an interesting perspective to have as a filmmaker, though I just found it really unemotional.
The virus is the star of this film. For the entire course of human history, this was the norm, that an epidemic or a disease would wipe out huge swaths of the population. We haven't eradicated it. We haven't made it disappear. This can still happen.
And it did scare me. I mean, when I left the movie, I remember going to the bathroom and washing my hands twice, you know? Like, it affected me because it's an interesting topic and it preys on the anxieties of neurotic hypochondriacs like me.
Right.
But all those fears that I have about the movie didn't come from the characters and what they were experiencing. They came from the fact that it's a disease.
That's exactly the point that I was trying to make earlier, which is the virus doesn't care if you're beautiful or if you're ugly. It's outside of human society, and the artificial things that we bring to our human societies don't matter in the face of something like this.
I mean, the problem with that is that when you have a story that, you know, is basically predicated on the fact that the virus doesn't care, nature doesn't care, nobody really cares, then I don't care.
Well, you should, because you could die.
It's true, I could die. And you know what? The fears that this movie is sort of like stumbling around are inherently scary. So the movie will have that regardless of its qualities. But to me, it doesn't really dig deeply enough into that because it doesn't really go anywhere with the characters.
Well, I think that has to do with the casting. The casting of all those celebrities is a somewhat political move because you instantly have recognizability. You look at Matt Damon, you think, oh, he's such a good guy because I've seen him be a good guy in all these other movies. I'm going to feel for him. But do I know where he went to college? Do I know what he really does for a living? Maybe, but I forgot.
It doesn't matter.
It's a shortcut to cast and to fill it with stars.
But the problem for me is that when you populate this movie with so many stars, you don't really give them anything to do. This movie, to me, feels like it's trying to be Traffic, but really doesn't have any substance to it.
Well, that one had more of a point of view. Soderbergh was saying something in Traffic.
He's saying something in this movie. Drugs is a completely created problem. It's created by society. A virus is not created by society, it's completely outside society. It doesn't care what the government is, if it's legal or illegal, it's still gonna kill you.
I completely disagree with that because what I'm talking about is why it doesn't work as a movie and not as like a scientific approach to understanding something.
Sure.
And for me, this movie needed to be more like Traffic. We needed to live with these characters more, we needed to spend more time with them, we needed to understand where they're coming from, and themes needed to resonate from that. And I feel like it didn't at all.
The director's definitely making a statement with this. He's definitely taking a very unusual approach to telling the story and to portraying these themes because he is dialing down the sensationalism.
But that sort of lack of sensationalism, I feel like, is something that Steven Soderbergh has always been really great at. As a director, he's somebody that really understands...
A lot of it in Traffic.
But I feel like he really is a great filmmaker at sort of showcasing processes.
As of last night, there are 5 deaths and 32 cases.
There's a cluster in an elementary school.
Okay, that's the kind of thing you're going to have to be prepared for. It's going to be all over the news big time.
My whole thing with this movie is if you want to showcase, you know, the sort of the behind-the-scenes look at how agencies like this and organizations like this work, then I don't know if this is the right medium for that.
You want this film to be something else. You want this film to be
because
traffic.
this film doesn't work.
This film works great. It's a very realistic, scientific look at a very dangerous problem. And if you go to this saying this movie sucked because it wasn't traffic, I think that's the wrong analysis.
I'm not saying this movie sucked. I'm just saying that it doesn't work well enough for people to go out and see it.
All right, well, I don't know if we're ever going to agree, so let's just vote.
All right,
That's a good idea. If a great movie is a deadly virus, then this is nothing more than a day cold. So I say skip it.
If you like movies that credit you with having some intelligence instead of insulting your intelligence with phony emotional bullshit, then this movie is for you. See it.
I love Steven Soderbergh, and I think he needs to go home, take a rest, and come back with a better, more intimate film. So I say stream it.
Well, it looks like 1.5 tickets, which is a stream it for Contagion, and I think that's quite fair. We represented each side, so stream it.
Let's cheers for me winning.
Keep
I won.
spreading your virus,
I'm the winner.
Dennis.
I won.